So in this video, I want to speak to you about AI specifically. AI is getting a lot of bad rap. You can start at the high level. Articles about 80% of the jobs in today's economy are going to be replaced by AI. I remember growing up, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky was we often called it a gray collar town, blue collar town. It was a unionized town. International Harvester, Ford Motor Company were big manufacturing, General Electric, Appliance Park. Okay, so there was a lot of unionized manufacturing jobs. Of course, supervisors and management's next in. Humana came in with the Heart Institute, changed to Louisville. UPS moved in, their next day air operations. It seemed like everybody I knew went to work for UPS. But during the 80s, the big push was we're moving from a manufacturing economy to the service economy. And in the process, it sort of wiped Louisville off the map until Humana and UPS came with more service-related jobs. But then manufacture came roaring back. Appliance Park is still active, and Ford is still manufacturing trucks and different vehicles in Louisville. But I use that to make a point that every 20 to 30 years, the economy remakes itself. So you really should see AI as part of a process. And, AI is going to eliminate jobs, traditional jobs that are repetitive. It's machine learning. But AI, you have to program AI. If it's driving robots, you got to manufacture and build the robots. You got to service the robots. You got to program the computers. You got to keep the computers and the data centers cool. There's millions of jobs going to be created by AI, but we have to have the skills to do that. I hate to make generalizations, but I used to beat it into my kids, not physically beat them. That being in the tech industry, as I have been since 1983, kids in America don't want to study programming. What's called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We want to go and get a job in business. We want to be business majors. We want to be lawyers. We want to sue people. It's coming from the service mentality. But we got caught with our pants down in America when we lost our manufacturing segment. And, COVID came out and we learned that, more than half, if not 80% of the antibiotics were made in China. We just said, we let them do that work. We don't want to do that work. And it's come to bite us. AI is not a threat, folks. We're hearing horror stories that AI is generating motions in court and citing non-existent cases. Scare tactics. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying somebody didn't use the technology bad for alternative ulterior motives, but it's not bad. Okay, I'm gonna make this very personal. When I started Cognitive, when I got into this space, I trace it back to the mid '80s when I was being taught by Dr. Becker's then wife, today Dr. Krista Slayton, government, introduction of government, business, or constitutional law. And, I want to go to law school. And my mom was in the legal industry, and that's why I'm going to make this personal to explain AI. And I want to go to law school. That's it. Well, Dr. Slayton said, you ought to meet my husband, Dr. Becker. She was then a future Krista Becker. And you meet this guy who's, I think, third generation lawyer who does not like what the legal profession has become, and took me under his wing. And I remember my mom, when I talked, Dr. Becker, mediation, arbitration, dispute resolution, neutral, blah, 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 blah. She didn't like it. Well, you're still going to go to law school? No. Dr. Becker was one of the first people that said, if you've got this much experience in technology, and it's been good to you for making a living, why would you ever go to law school? And I didn't. I don't regret that decision at all. But it also doesn't exclude us from getting into it, or our company, Cognitive, and its products. Again, I was promised a personal thing. So my mom, in the late 50s, left a very rural part of Kentucky to move to the big city, Louisville, and get a job. First, it was called Spencerian Business College. Today it's called Sullivan University, and pursue basically a associate's degree in legal studies or become a legal secretary. A lot of people look at secretaries as little typers, coffee getters, gophers, or whatever. My mom was a consummate professional, and she looked at the business aspect and the management of the money and cash flow and payroll and all that. She really became way more than just there should be an insult if you told my mom she's going to be a coffee getter, pick up the dry cleaning for the attorneys. It wasn't her. She started attending meetings of the Louisville Association of Legal Secretaries. She held every office and became president of the Louisville Association. I remember that in the 70s. And then in the late 70s, 80s, she became a Kentucky Association, held every office, including being president of the Kentucky Association. And then she became the national organization, National Association of Legal Secretaries, NALS, N-A-L-S, I believe. And I think today they're National Association of Legal Secretaries and Paralegals. I'm not for sure about that, but keeping it personal, my mom. That's what my mom did. Now, my mom would argue these attorneys spend about 10% of the time in the management of the case and the processes. They did all the legwork, typing all the documents, dictating, etc. So in many ways, my mom was like a little worker bee feeder of what we today call AI. They wouldn't even know how to run this business if it wasn't for us. And she was one often because she was really some combination of a paralegal, even though she never pursued a bachelor's degree and became officially a paralegal, and a bookkeeper, but she wasn't an accountant. But she learned the process of law office management, cash flow management, case management, and built systems. That's AI, guys. Okay? Use the attorneys and their education, his or her education, for what they need. It's just like the telemedicine delivery in my previous example. And let AI replace repetitive tasks. Generative AI. Repetitive task that brings AI to life, specifically in conflict resolution. I hate to use divorce, but you could as the best example. And when I say this, it makes a lot of people mad. Divorce is relatively simple. It could almost be an algorithm. What is AI? It's an algorithm. Okay? It's machine learning based on an algorithm. Okay? So, divorce. Once you decide the percentage of parental custody, it seems like today, it used to be every other weekend and 1 day a week. If the guy was really busy and traveled, maybe the father seen him every other weekend and not during the week. Or maybe it was summers that they were geographically disparate. We've had a variety of ways. But once you determine the percentage, then there's child support, which is based on income of the parties, and the percentage of custody, the division of assets and liabilities. How much do you owe? How much you got? Credit cards, car loans, lines of credit, assets. Pretty simple if the date is correct. Often there's one party in a marriage that does the books and or bills, and he or she may know more about it than the other party. When they get a divorce, they're not necessarily lying. They just don't know who they owe, what they owe, how much they owe, or whatever. Maybe hadn't seen a bank statement or credit card statement in years in their marriage. It's not unusual. Okay. But AI could do a divorce minus the emotions. Now that's where we differentiate ourselves. We want to harness the subfield of psychology called emotional intelligence. All of us have an emotional makeup. DNA. Some of our personality comes from our DNA, just like family medical history. It comes from learned behavior of our parents and our families and people who influence us as children. And then our education. And so AI emotional intelligence, which is a bad brand, by the way, because then EQ, it's known as emotional intelligence, EI, excuse me. And so, what are you saying? You got more emotional intelligence than I do? I think they should drop the word intelligence. Okay, but specifically, there's assessments, and we use one of the assessment tools, EQ 2-3 tool. It's the most recognized, like the Myers-Briggs personality test, of which people used to hire people based on your personality to align the culture of a company. And so we harness that, and we ask you to take that assessment, and then we're able to use AI to serve the difference in the two parties to diffuse the emotional aspects of intelligence. That's about all I can say in a generic sense, minus non-disclosure in the patent. But it should give you a good feel why we're different. I don't even know. So who's your competitors? There's some people peddling ODR, online dispute resolution. And online dispute resolution seems to be video conferencing. Like Zoom is online dispute resolution. No, Zoom is video conferencing. So tools to resolve a dispute. And AI can go out and look at like settlements of your conflict and like how they settled and use that to suggest settlements. Lawyers can't do that, folks. I'm not saying they can't. Their current methodology of serving their customers an economic model is not such. That's why my previous examples about telemedicine and minute clinics have changed the economic and service models of small doctor family practices, and that AI is going to change the profession, the legal profession. It's not a threat. It's doing the work that legal secretaries and paralegals do and the repetitive stuff that lawyers do so they can better serve. That lawyers need to get into advisory and a professional advisory. You got a conflict, you do want to know your legal standing. Then you want to get the conflict resolved, and then there may be a recording required, an agreement of governance post-settlement. But the process of dispute resolution, or what we call electronic negotiation, facilitated electronic negotiation, has a human element. And that's where I'll conclude the AI. AI unsupervised is dangerous. AI is machine learning. It's the input and the data that makes the AI work. Well, if that's not correct, it becomes more biased than a biased judge. Let's just say about minorities, they had a tough time in court because there was a period in our bad period of our history where there was a lot of racial prejudice. Okay, and there's some real ramifications. In AI, this should be seen as an equalizer if used better. So I hope that makes sense. I could talk for hours about this. These are introductory videos. Trying to get a TED Talk. I love to speak to bar associations, large lawyer groups, large consumer groups, large companies that want to figure out how to resolve disputes more efficiently, increase the reputation of their companies through better, less confrontational, less complicated. That's where our products come in. The next videos are going to be about products. So thanks for your consideration. I hope these little segments are helping.